To expect anything is the cause of misery. To expect nothing is peace. There can be no misery where you love without expectation. As far as you think somebody your own, so far you suffer sorrow from him. If you regard someone as your own without expecting anything, there can be no cause of sorrow. The closer the relationship with anyone, the severer the sorrow through him. The cause of sorrow is the expectation of happiness from that person. So renunciation itself will bring peace. Those very pleasures of sex and wealth, which seem to be so full of nectar to the indiscriminating man, are regarded as nothing but the droppings of a crow by a wise man. The same thing becomes poison or nectar with the change of circumstances. The same thing which was once perceived as a nectar by the indiscriminating man will become a poison if the circumstances change. Weakness is the cause of all unhappiness. Give up this weakness and proceed to get freedom. Man becomes weak by thinking repeatedly that he is weak, that he is somebody, something. You have forgotten the real state of your freedom and have submitted to your weakness, to your identity, to your imagination about yourself. That is the man's weakness. His imagination, identity about himself, the repeated thinking that he is something. That is the man's weakness. You may think you have not already got that ever-free power, but in reality, it exists in you always. You are already free. So who can make you weak other than your own imagination about yourself? Taking shelter in cowardice and weakness, you have become weak. The true purpose of this freedom cannot be realized by reading books or shastras or from verbal instructions. It is one's own innate nature and must realize it by one's own meditation. This freedom should be realized by one's own meditation, not by reading books or understanding or believing or having faith in something. No. This freedom has to be directly realized by one's own meditation. It cannot be found in anything lying outside. According to his karma, a man gets his power, knowledge, and intellect. The manifestation of knowledge and intellect varies according to one's karma. Limited karma manifests only limited knowledge and intellect. Man limits himself who can himself be infinite. Do not consider want of discipline the same as freedom. They are not synonymous. Strength alone is the way to develop unshackled power. Because man has forgotten his own self, he has become weak. If he turns his vision from outwards to his own self, all weakness will end and freedom will be the manifest. If a man can meditate on what am I, what is the body, what is the mind, then he can get beyond the darkness of ignorance and know the root cause. Just as a frog in a well, wanting to know what the sea is like, while still stopping in his well, fails to do so, refusing to believe in the very existence of the sea. So also, an unliberated man fails to understand salvation and thinks it a figment of the imagination. If one wants to know oneself, that is to go beyond the cycle of birth and death, the thing cannot be achieved in mere argument. That state can only be obtained by stilling the mind. Once, a drunken man who was trying to push a road with his head said, "This road is curved, I am making it straight." Another drunkard, a ploughman, while making movements of his limbs as if swimming on a field, said, "I am swimming across a big river." As a result, the first had a pain in his head and the second his body full of bruises. But neither was the road curved, nor was there water in the field. Similarly, due to ignorance, man considers the samsara to be real, and so quotes the pain of birth and death over and over again. Seeing Brahman but perceiving it as a world of individual separate entities is ignorance. Because of this ignorance, man considers this samsara, this world to be real, and he performs so many actions which brings him bruises and the pain of birth and death over and over again. Oh, rules the day, the night and time. You man, yet you have not come to thy senses. How often am I to repeat the same thing? Alas, you does not wake up from thy midnight dream. You are senseless in the darkness of ignorance. Your boyhood has passed, and you are in youth. All of a sudden, senility and death will come. Have you ever thought over these problems well? Otherwise, how are you passing thy days? In happiness and useless pursuits? Open your eyes but once and see how long will this life of youth last. You have been forgetful of your own self, spellbound as it were in the enjoyment of material objects. Fleeting like a dream is the sun of your happiness. It will in its turn be eclipsed by time when the mirage of illusion ceases to appear. Birth, death and fear will be your slaves. When will that auspicious day dawn that will awaken in you discrimination and dispassion? In this pitch darkness, the darkness of samsara, your mind has sunk, yet the thirst remains unquenched, only kindling further desires, forgetting your own self. In spite of its recurrence many times, alas, the darkness of your ignorance does not disappear. In a certain place, a man lived in a hut. This hut was small, and the man's job was also small. His mind, intellect, and knowledge were all narrow, and his mind, with its limited intellect, could form no idea of the existence outside his small hut. He could not imagine so many spacious localities and huge activities outside his hut. He used to think it is prime duty in life to be confined within these narrow limits. This man of meager intellect did not even think once whether it was his duty to remain within the limits or to go beyond them. Living in the narrow, dark hut, where could he get the power of thinking that something vast exists beyond his little dark hut? If he could once get out of his dark hut, only then would the great expanse of sky fall within his vision. If anyone should come to him and ask him to look at what lay beyond his set limits, he would say, I am now very busy with the many activities in my hut. How can I find leisure to go out to see the vast sky? He would always be afraid of this thought, that if he gets out of his dark hut, he will fail in his duty, in his small circle. So he will never agree to go out on any account. He does not understand what is good or bad for him. And if even someone tells him, he just takes the opposite view. In what sort of flight is he? He is like the bee on a lotus in a picture. Neither is his thirst quenched, nor is he otherwise satisfied. Being in the hut, his desires are not quenched, but he is not willing to go out also, out of this little hut. He has not got renunciation to strengthen him, nor indifference to sense objects to help him, and he is in the chain of slavery. Where will he get peace and where contentment when his mind is being consumed with insatiable desires? Tell me, what is the good of such a petty life which never leaves room for feeling for the universe? The mind that feels for a small circle, the small little life of the ego, the identity, the family, small relationships, etc. Why does it not feel for the world at large? When this man can consider himself as this one body and mind and family as himself, why can't he take himself as the entire universe? Why can't he become vast? Why is he limiting himself to a small, dark hut, which is never quenching his thirst? The mind which takes a small circle as its own, why does it not consider the world as its own? The affection which is confined to a small circle, why does it not spread all over the universe? The sense of difference is the cause of all sorrows. Should a man confine himself to this small circle? Self-knowledge will not dawn by mere study of books on religious science, if one still remains in the darkness of ignorance. Without self-realization, no one can ever be content. Self-realization is the only peace and contentment. Just think over and ascertain whether there are peace and contentment in the state in which you are now, or in what you are doing now. You may be a physician. You treat others, their illness. Have you treated yourself, the disease of birth and death? Engaged in the attempt of removing the insatiable desires of the small circle in which you are living. What else are you doing? Just as other serpents, through force of her hypnotic spell, enter the mouth of the she-serpent named Shankini, so are you also gradually entering the jaws of death. There is no certainty when death will fully devour you. Even at this very moment, death may swallow you up. I am surprised that you should be quite indifferent to this. Think for once of the great illusion you are in. Instead of advancing sophisticated arguments, argue with yourself and come to the right conclusion. By arguing with others, no one can realize his true nature, which is the infinite. Only after a fight with his desire for enjoyments and defeating it can a man realize his self and shine as infinite. You are living in a great illusion. Try to save yourself from the grip of enchantress expectation.